We've had this news for about 45 minutes, but again, we expected something like this to happen because Donald Trump, Jake Sherman, did nominate Kash Patel to be the next leader of the FBI, which meant that Christopher Wray was going to have to leave one way or another. It's extraordinary in itself that an FBI director would be pushed out. Now, the second time Donald Trump is pushing out an FBI director, usually they serve 10-year terms to keep them, non-political. I'm wondering what the reaction so far has been on Capitol Hill.
Well, it'll make Kash Patel's road a little bit easier, Katie, because Republicans will now be able to say, or they will say, that they need an FBI director when Donald Trump comes into office. And that will be the excuse that they use to confirm Patel, in my estimation. And listen, it's not completely unprecedented. Bill Clinton did this back in the beginning of his first term. He replaced the FBI director. But obviously, the issues are much deeper and much more personal to Trump. And I just think that based on our reporting now, our reporting up until today, including today after this announcement was made, Kash Patel is getting a pretty warm reception with most Senate Republicans because Republicans have the majority and they hold the keys to Patel being confirmed.
Why is he getting a warm reception from Republicans? I understand Donald Trump's anger with the FBI, but why do Republicans on the Hill feel that Kash Patel is somebody that they would feel comfortable confirming?
There's a couple levels to this. Number one is the surface level, which is that members of Congress traditionally, not always, defer to a president in selecting his own cabinet and believe the president should have the advisors that he or she wants. He, in every case in American history, he wants. That's number one. Number two, there's the obvious layer of people wanting to please Donald Trump. That's nothing new. We've seen that for the last decade. And number three, there's a bit of theatrics here, Katie, when it comes to nominees. Nominees say things that the audience, in this case senators, want to hear. Kash Patel has said he is not going to go after Donald Trump's enemies. And whether that's true or not, only time will tell. Donald Trump certainly would like him to go after his enemies. So there's a bit of theater, of acting, of playing to the crowd. And I think that's what every nominee, not just Kash Patel, but every nominee is doing at the moment.
Andrew Weissmann, what should be the expectation for I want to get to Wray deciding to leave in a moment, but the expectation for what Kash Patel would do if he is confirmed at the FBI. Donald Trump was interviewed by Kristen Welker on Meet the Press over the weekend, and he said he wasn't going to direct his FBI to do anything, but he expected that the FBI would go on to these investigations against some of the people that investigated Donald Trump while he was in office and while he was out of office.
Well, leaving aside Donald Trump's, calling directly until the Kristen Welker interview for what he wanted his administration to do and now saying, well, I'm not going to do it. Let's leave that to one side, whether there should be any believability or credibility to that. I think that with Kash Patel, there's sort of two things. One is he has this adherence to views that are simply not backed up by hard evidence, just even if we're talking about his view of what happened on January 6th or what happened in the last election. And to this day, we still do not have any evidence. And that really goes to the heart of what the FBI and, frankly, anybody whether in journalism, whether in politics, whether in the executive branch should be governed by, which is facts. Facts should matter, certainly with respect to an FBI director. And so that obviously would be of great concern to the men and women at the FBI that the director may not be governed by facts and law. And the second is a simple lack of experience. There are 36,000 or so employees at the FBI. It is an incredibly intense job. The prior occupants of it are people who have had deep experience in law enforcement, much deeper than Kash Patel. And it is the leading law enforcement agency in the United States. It has an important national security role, and it's no time to learn on the job. We saw that, just to take one simple example, when Hurricane Katrina happened under the Bush administration, and there was a widespread view that the person in charge of FEMA was not ready for the job. Well, you certainly don't want that to be a repeat at the FBI. And so I think those are all the kinds of concerns that I think would play out in a confirmation hearing and for the American public. And the final concern would be that Kash Patel apparently has said that he was there and was a witness to Donald Trump declassifying various documents that were subsequently found in Mar-a-Lago. And I think there's substantial reasons that Jack Smith has to think that that is not the case. And seems to have alleged the opposite. It'll be interesting to see when a report comes out about Mar-a-Lago whether that is one of the issues. But I think it raises significant issues for the confirmation hearing with respect to whether Kash Patel is going to adhere to that view. And even if he does adhere to it, Katie, there'll be an issue of, okay, even if that's true, is he saying that the president-elect is somebody who thought it was appropriate to declassify documents that involve, let's say, the nuclear secrets of this country and of our foreign adversaries? In other words, even if it were true that it was declassified, does that mean that that's sort of an appropriate thing to do? So this all could be very, very sticky and messy, both in terms of substance, in terms of prior consistent statements or inconsistent statements, and sheer competence for this position, which is of such dire importance to the public safety of the American public.
Let me play a little bit of what Kash Patel has said that he would want to change at the FBI.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big. And the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
So, Ryan, what's the reaction within the Bureau today?
Yeah, a lot of concern. I mean, for sure, that's the number one thing on the list. I mean, either it's a question of how much of this was the podcast persona and how much of this is Kash Patel in reality, whether or not he's going to say different things. We've already seen some evidence of that as he goes up on the Hill. But just to put this in historical context, I would say, Jake is correct that Bill Clinton did in fact push out an FBI director, but in that case, it was somebody who had these severe and reality-based ethical charges against him. Who was criticized by someone who some people might remember, William Barr, at the time during his first round as Attorney General, as well as Janet Reno once she came in. So that was a little bit of a different case. And what you have then, if you put sort of an asterisk on that case, is that the two FBI directors who have been pushed out since Watergate are both pushed out by then President Trump and now President-elect Donald Trump in a way. So it really is setting up this unique moment in American history, especially when you're looking at, the biggest thing that's been on the agenda for the FBI during these past nearly 4 years now. The biggest investigation in their entire history had to do with January 6th and getting, the over 1,500 people arrested and charged in connection with that case. And that's an instance where we could be looking at pardons coming for political violence just in a few weeks down the line, depending on what Donald Trump ultimately decides to do about those January 6 cases.